Hey guys, how's it going? It's Fangs, and today I'm going to be bringing you kind of like a story time. Now, I have a question and answer that's coming out tomorrow, and I had people ask me questions on Twitter, and I ended up getting this question that I decided that it's going to be kind of like a story time, kind of like a, I don't know, answer the question, explanation of my life, and I decided I wanted to get into it. A lot of times with these questions, people will say stuff to me like, stuff like, you need to be more open with your questions or you need to answer them truthfully. And so I'm going to try to do that with this question as much as I can and kind of explain this. But before we get started here today, if you guys want to get some FIFA 14 Ultimate Team coins so you can build some awesome teams and win some games in Ultimate Team, check out www.buycheapfifacoins.com. I'm going to have a link in the description below. If you click on that link, there's a little like Google thing. I was trying to explain this to people. It's a Google link, so it shows how many people click on my actual link so the site knows who they're getting sales from, although it also asks when you get the sale to put my name in, so don't forget to put my name in there. Right now, they're still having the sale going on where it's £10 per 100k coins, and that's for PS3 and Xbox, so definitely check that out. Anyway, so on one of the questions, this question came from @EthanT99, and it said, what is the best moment in your life? And I was on my way home from work, and I was thinking about it because I was going through my questions. Probably should not have been doing that because you can't look at your phone while you're driving. I do it at stoplights sometimes, though. So, I'm going to be saying this over some FIFA gameplay, and I don't have a webcam on. I probably won't have a webcam for tomorrow's video just because, I don't know, I feel like crap right now. I had some terrible sushi fish yesterday, and I look like death, and I'm trying to recover before I go to New York, but, and I'm going to be in New York for the weekend, so. But anyway, so I had to go back and I think, and I have a time, and I know what the time is. It's the best moment of my life. And I could answer it very short and very quick, but then you wouldn't really have an explanation of like why. You wouldn't know exactly what drives that moment to make that moment the best moment of my life. And so I wanted to go into detail. And a lot of you guys had saw, I think I was only at like 30,000 subscribers, possibly, maybe more, whenever I did a Draw My Life. And I kind of like went into detail of my life there, but not really. I was doodling on a thing and I was just trying to explain things, and it was hard to draw out a part of it. I have the worst handwriting in the world, by the way. But I kind of went into detail of my childhood, and I have quite an interesting childhood, so this is going to kind of like start to explain what would create this moment to be the greatest moment, I would say, of my life so far, and so probably forever. But, so my childhood was very, like, typical of an American. My parents divorced when I was like 2. They split up. My mom ended up taking us, well, for a while we lived in the same city as my dad in Waco. That's where I was from, Waco, Texas, and so, we ended up leaving. My mom really didn't like my dad. I don't know why, because my mom was the one that cheated on my dad, but she didn't like my dad. And so we ended up leaving, moving to Oklahoma near my family. And I've got a lot of family up there. My mom's got like, I think it's 7 sisters and 3 brothers. So there's a ton up there. I have a lot of cousins. And it was supposed to be a lot of fun, but I was not very happy about it. Even at that age, I was used to my parents being split up, but I was not used to being that far from my dad. And he traveled on the road and stuff. So like I knew I was never going to see him. But, and I'm really close to my dad. I have been my entire life. I don't know why there's like a bond there that is like more than what it is with like anybody else in my family. It's weird. But so we moved to Oklahoma, and like the first few years of Oklahoma were fine. I obviously didn't like it at the beginning. I don't know. I meshed well. I played sports and I meshed well, and everything was fine with that. But there's just parts of it, I was in Oklahoma. I wanted to live in Texas. I wanted to be closer to my dad, and it was just annoying, but it was cool. My grandma was there. Me and my grandma were really close. We were actually born on the same day, and she named me, and so, we've got that whole feeling. It's my mom's mom. So, we moved there, and, like, for a while, my mom ended up getting remarried, and everything was really cool about it, and my life was great. I had one of those, my mom owned her own business. We had tons of money. I got whatever I wanted. I was a spoiled little shit, and, so I was fine. Life was great. And like I said, kind of in my Draw My Life, there's, like, a moment, where things went to go, like, terribly wrong, like, weird. I know it's gonna sound really weird, but my aunt actually in this city is a drug dealer. She always has been, and well, not anymore, obviously. She ended up getting in trouble for it, and she went to prison, and she got out, and she was on probation. And just here recently, her girlfriend, my aunt is also lesbian. Her girlfriend got in a car wreck, and my aunt went to the scene while being intoxicated, even though she was on probation, which is drinking and driving. So she's back in prison. So that was not a smart move, but. Anyway, my aunt was a drug dealer. Somehow, in the process of her doing or whatever she was dealing, which I was pretty sure is like probably like meth and heroin at the time. At that age, I had no idea what it was. My mom somehow got tangled up in it. And so it started taking over my mom's life. She's always been kind of a drinker. My mom drinks like way too much, and she has no idea. She doesn't understand what she's doing, and I don't think she'll ever be able to get past that, even still now to this day. But she drinks wine and stuff like that, and so I was always used to her, like, there was a switch with her where she was, like, really happy and really nice, and then she can get to where she's just, like, I don't know, she's scary, and she's mean or whatever, so that I was semi-used to, but what came after that was worse than anything I could ever imagine. Being at that age, I was probably like 7 years old, and she started doing drugs, and I didn't know what she was doing at that time. Obviously, my stepdad didn't want to have anything to do with it, and whatever she was doing made her extraordinarily paranoid. And so she, like, thought he was always cheating on her, and she was always making this stuff up. I mean, he might have actually cheated on her, I have no idea, but it was this big mess. This whole thing happened. I told you about that scary house that was haunted that I thought, like, ruined my entire life. That was, like, a big deal in Fairland. But we ended up, the whole family split up. And I was used to always being with my mom and my brother Jimmy. And I had a little sister named Taylor who my stepmom and my dad had. Or no, wait. What am I saying? My mom and my stepdad had. And so I was used to having that, like, family together at that time. And it was awesome. And then it just all boom, cut in half. And so, like, my world flipped and went completely upside down. I ended up having to go live with my Aunt Cindy, who was a drug dealer, which made things fairly interesting as a child. She lived in a house, like, in the middle of Miami, that's the name of the town, and, I mean, she was always paranoid. I'm pretty sure she was always on drugs, but she was not, I could not tell with her as much as I could, like, tell the difference with my mom, but she was always, like, close the doors, and, you know, there's always, like, cops would be, like, prowling by, and she'd be like, make sure the front door's closed, and I had no idea at that age what was even going on, or even that she was selling him. I never really got to see him. My Aunt Cindy was good about never letting me actually see what was going on, so for her, you know, I just thought she was just crazy. I thought she was just my crazy Aunt Cindy. But with my mom, I got to notice it right away. We ended up moving out of the house, and my brother ended up just, like, disappearing from my life at that point. And so my little sister ended up staying with her dad a lot, and so it ended up being this thing where it was just me and my mom, which became one of the biggest nightmares of my life because I had to, like, deal with things that you probably shouldn't have to deal with at that age. Coming with, like, the points of where she did so many drugs and stuff like that she ended up losing her business. She owned her own business that my aunt and my grandma were actually a part of as well. So she ended up making that crumble to the ground, on top of other things that happened with it, but her being the way she was did not help. And so we moved a million different houses. I guess she might have struggled to find jobs, or maybe, I think, my mom has always had money, so I don't understand what exactly was happening with her money, but she wasn't paying things, and we had to move in between different places. And in all this happening, like, she was living this life that was beyond me, that was beyond having a child. She shouldn't have had a child in this moment. And so there's a lot of times where I found myself growing up where I stayed by myself, like, in a house for, you know, 3 or 4 days at a time. I had to take care of myself. I had to learn, like, to try to cook things for myself. I remember when I was that age, we'd have groceries and stuff, but at that time she just, like, stopped cooking. And so, like, I'd try to make hamburgers and I couldn't get it to go together, so I made scrambled hamburgers, or I'd have to go to, like, Taco Bell or Pizza Hut. Like, I ate so bad at that age. I don't understand how I'm not a 400-pound kid, because I ate so bad. I had, like, sometimes I would have, like, Pepsi and Reese's for dinner and stuff like that. So I remember, like, one key moment this was, like, a living hell, to be honest, for me. This shut me off from a lot of feelings and emotions, I think, that I was supposed to have, because I was so secluded. Like, the only time I ever really interacted with people was at school, and because of what was happening at my home and how upset I was, I didn't interact with them very well. So I was angry, and I got in a lot of trouble, and it caused, like, a lot of terrible things to happen in my life. And I started going down this downward spiral. But I can remember, like, to get into, like, details of some of the things, like, when my mom was home, it wasn't any better. Like, it was even worse, because she would either, like, beat up in her room, or she'd, like, bring a new boyfriend home, which luckily for me, because she had tons of boyfriends, I was very lucky that they were always, seemed to be nice guys. I never got, like, you hear in these stories, like, half the time people get, like, raped and stuff like that. Thank God none of that ever happened for me. I think more than likely they always just felt bad for me, and they always found out that my mom was extremely crazy and way too doing whatever kind of drugs she was doing, that they ended up leaving. And so she'd take it out on me, and she'd call me all these kinds of, like, shit, like, terrible things that you should never say to your child. That's probably the reason why I've got the potty mouth that I have today, because I should not have heard that stuff at that age, but I did. And it would make me rebel, and I'd get mad, and I would try to leave, and, you know, I'd go to my aunt's or go to my grandma's, My aunt and my grandma would always talk me into moving like back in with her because I guess they just didn't really see what was going on. For the longest time, they didn't see what was going on. And I was telling my dad about this. And throughout this entire process of having my mom be this crazy alcoholic drug addict who a lot of times wasn't even home, maybe fend for myself, I had to learn how to do my own laundry. I had to, I remember one time one key moment in my life I can remember is I was probably like 8 or 9 years old, and I had been home alone for like 2 days. And at this point, like I just was depressed, and which was crazy because at that time I felt nothing. I became a very numb person, which is not something that you ever want to become. But I remember walking to Walmart, which was probably like 6 miles away. Walked there, went and got Stone Cold Steve Austin movie because I was obsessed with wrestling at that age. And I brought it home, and that was like one of the most joyous nights I ever had because I watched that damn thing like 4 times in a row. Like, that's the kind of stuff I had to do to make myself happy. I started doing really bad in school and started like rebelling, getting in fights. I beat the living shit out of this girl at that age at one point. I remember pulling her out of like her mom's car when her mom wasn't there and doing that, which was terrible. Shouldn't be doing that, especially as a lady and at that age. And I dealt with a lot of things. You know, I played a lot of sports. I had to walk myself to my sports. I never had anybody there to pretty much do anything for me at all. So at that age in my life, I was my own person, and I had to deal with crazy stuff, and it turned me into like the most secluded, the most emotionless, the most just like not the kind of kid that I should have been. And I even at that age started to do stuff like smoking. I smoked my first cigarette when I was 9 years old, 9 or 10, actually, I think I was 10 years old. Smoked my first cigarette, took my very first tequila shot, started hanging out with some crazy people that were older than me that, you know, it just gave me some sense of like, oh, they could take care of me. I should have probably turned more to my grandmother, but obviously at that age, you don't really know what you're doing. And so I got myself in a lot of trouble. Luckily for me, I didn't get into the parts that most people in that type of city get into. When you live in a small town, people start having sex and stuff early. Didn't do that, thank God. I don't know why. I've always respected myself for that. But I did start failing really badly in school. I'm a very, very good student. I'm not even going to try to, put myself down here and say that I'm not. I'm an amazing student, and I'm pretty book smart, to be honest. I graduated high school early, I graduated college early, but there's so many things going on in my life then, especially on top of like all this happening. A death of a friend that was my age happened, and I pretty much at that point in my life, up until this lasted probably from age 7 to age 11 or 12. I mean, it was pretty good, like 5 years of where I dealt with this, to where I just like I gave up caring, I gave up everything. Like, I wanted to live with my dad. Court systems wouldn't let me live with my dad, and that's because they think that the child should be with the mother, which is ridiculous. And so, everything was pretty much completely falling apart for me. And I had this one moment where I got really sick, and it was because I ate a Big Mac at McDonald's. It's so weird. And something that had to do with the sauce in there ended up giving me salmonella, which is not something you ever want to have. And my mom thought I was faking it. She thought I just didn't want to go to school because, I don't know, she's being a fucking idiot at the time. And she ended up not taking me. She just like left. I think she had a job. She went to work at that time, left me there, and I pretty much nearly died. Like, I had the fever that was out of control. I had to drag myself to my neighbor's house, and she had to like call my grandma, who had to take me to the hospital. And I had to get, like all this stuff done, IVs, get hydrated. Ended up staying with my grandma. It took me a week and a half, 2 weeks to recover, and that's about the time when my grandma said, this is it. I would back this in the court system. I want you to live with your father. My aunts agreed with her. I had a few aunts that were just like, this has to happen. And the best moment of my life happened 3 weeks after this. My dad ended up going to court. But even beforehand, my grandma had taken me up there, and the moment happened where I was able to sign papers, and I was able to have my father as my legal guardian. And to be honest, that sounds weird, and that's like, I've had a long life and I've done so many amazing things and everything has happened, but the best moment of my life was the day that my dad became my legal guardian and that I got to live with him. Like, it turned my life around completely, and it took a lot of work past that. Like, I remember that day. I remember sitting down. He had a house. I had my room. I remember them like having it all set up for me, my stepmom and him, and I always had a fight with my stepmom, but I remember sitting down on my bed And I remember like having the most relief that I've ever had in my entire life. Like that was the biggest stress that came off my shoulders. And it's still, I mean, to this day, like I can think about it and I love it and I can smile. It's like the one thing I can think back to and smile. And my mom's not a terrible person. I mean, keep that in mind. She's better now. I mean, she doesn't do drugs, and it's taken a lot for me to build a relationship with her, which I've kind of built. But that moment, that day that I moved to my dad's defined me. Like, it created me. I have a feeling that if that moment didn't happen in my life, I would either, I don't know, I'd be like on drugs, or I don't know, have like 5 kids and be crazy. I would have maybe possibly like killed myself doing something stupid. Not like killed myself, but like I'd have done, I don't know, I'd probably like done too many drugs and OD'd or ran my car off the road being drunk or something stupid way too early in life. And I just don't feel like I would have lasted that long. So that is the greatest moment of my life. And it's been a lot to get past that, to get past everything that has done for me, because I have like what I was, I have what I became, and then what I'm trying to become, and like what I see myself as a person. And I still, to this day, I hold a lot of the traits that were created out of that horror that was that 5 years of my life. Like, you know, I easily feel rejected. I overthink things like really way too much. I think the worst in everything. It's really hard for me to see the good in things. It's extremely hard for me to open up to people. Like, it is very, very seldom that I let any type of emotion go into a relationship with person. I mean, I can put a smile on the outside and I can do all this kind of stuff, but in the end, like, I can build friendships, but I don't build the emotional parts of it that need to be built. And I cut people out of my life and I can shut down, and there's like times where it's just crazy. And I have to deal with that, and I think, I mean, that's obviously was created in that moment. That was whatever developed in me at that age. It'll cause anxiety. I get really bad anxiety. You'll see I'll get red in the face sometimes. I don't get red in the face only because of anxiety. I get it for other reasons too, but there's just still a lot of stuff that I have to overcome, and I don't know if I ever will. Like, I have to think it in my life, and I have to know that possibly I never will. But at one point I hope that like a lot of that numbness will be gone, and I'll be able to open up more and be able to like, kind of like this. I guess this kind of helps, like, talking about it. I probably should have like done this before with other people, but I just don't. I keep a lot of things to myself. I'm a pretty closed book for the most part. I just like to smile and make people like happy, because there's, you know, I've had my times where I'm not happy, and I don't want anybody to ever have to feel that way. I don't want anyone to ever have to go through what I went through. Like, so pretty much to sum it all up, that was like a long, like, bunch of stuff that came together, but I know that was like a bunch of before and after and everything like that, but that's it. That's the answer to that question. That is the moment in my life that changed me forever, and I don't think anything will ever take away from that moment. And, you know, I think my dad, every day, for whatever he has created and what I've become, he probably doesn't even know that. I should probably tell him sometimes, but like I said, I'm kind of a closed book, so I just kind of keep things to myself, and yeah, I don't open very easily. So something I got to work on. Probably going to try to do it in the future. I hope that is a great explanation to that, though, or a great answer to that question. Now nobody can say that I don't answer my questions with sincerity, okay? I answer them exactly how I can, and I'm going to try to do that in my video tomorrow. There's going to be all the rest of the questions that were asked for me at #AskFangs, and if you want to ask them down, actually no, I'm going to pre-make this video, so don't ask them down below. The comments are messed up in this anyway. You probably won't even be able to comment on this video because YouTube is shut. Anyway, that's going to be it for this video, though, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. If you did, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button. It really helps me get this content out there. If you haven't subscribed to me yet, I'm so close to 50,000 subscribers. We're only like 4,000-ish away, so hopefully we'll get there. Anyway, thanks for watching this video, guys, and until next time, get Fang Bang, nerds.